Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Welcome everyone to episode 34. We are doing another cross-city podcast, I suppose, as I'm back now in London.
And I'm still in Broadstairs, folks.
You haven't gone anywhere.
Well, we got rain today here, Steve.
You've got rain. I think it was raining here earlier, but the ground is wet, but it's okay now. Yep, so I'm back in London. I came down to do the Misalliance play, didn't I? And
You did.
That went down very well. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and good audiences. So that was good. And now I'm back, and we've got some really interesting stuff to talk to you about. Some new things today that is off from our normal track, isn't it, really, I suppose?
Certainly,
and
yeah,
it's sort of
definitely.
just landed in our laps, or your lap, not so much mine. I didn't do anything. And yeah, so we're going to talk about that today. So let's give a bit of backstory on this. I did the Misalliance play by Bernard Shaw, which opened up the summer season, which is down in Broadstairs. And they have a series of plays. They have 4 in total, so I did the first one. And the third play in the series of plays, there's one this week and then another next week and the week after. The third play is a play called Improbable Fiction by Alan Ayckbourn. And Michael Friend, who is the director of the summer season, knows you, Dad, doesn't he, from previous productions. You've helped with set painting and things like that, as it's local to you. You know, and
That's right.
And it's worked out quite nicely. So he asked me initially, and I said, sure, go ahead and ask Dad, about some pictures that were needed as props.
That's right.
For the show. Yeah. So, Dad, explain what happened at the process, because I said, yeah, sure, Dad would be interested in that, and then I had to ask you whether you'd be interested in it.
Yeah.
Because I just assumed you'd be up for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm always up for challenges, as you know. What happened was, after the performance, which I came along to see with Eileen, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. You were terrific, sir. But I'm going to say that, aren't I? But yeah, you really were.
Biased.
Anyway, after the performance, we were waiting for you to come out. You know, good to say, just because there wasn't many people waiting at the stage door, so to speak, because they normally, you do get this with your local productions, but when you've got you were the only local person there. Anyway, we were waiting outside for you to come, and Michael came out before you. And I asked him about the pictures, and he said, yes. He said, what we're looking for, this was his brief, we're looking for 4 pictures, A3 size. I thought, blimey, first of all, I don't like the idea of A3 size, but obviously you could see why, because this is going to be on the stage, so they can't have little bits of paper flying around. So it had to be fairly large size. So it was A3 paper, and he wanted at least 4 pictures. He said, you don't have to do much, he said, because the audience aren't going to see them, as long as they can just see when they're flying around between the characters, you know, that they can see there's something on them. So I said, okay, tell me about it. And he said, well, what it is, it's this person, Grace, in the play, is an artist and a writer. And what she's done, she's written the story and has also produced, seemingly, these 4 illustrations for the book. And it's about Dobbin the Goblin. So you can see it's a children's book. Yeah. I said, okay, so you want a picture of Dobbin? He said, yeah. He said, what I'll do is I'll send you, or I'll give Steve a photocopy of this part of the script. I said, okay. So this is what he did. And I went away thinking, okay, now where do I start from here? I did ask him a few questions like, you know, what would you like? He said, well, I'd like some buttercups in it, you know, and a picture of walnuts, and you'll see what I mean when I talk about it later on. But that was really all. And I did come away a bit bemused, because normally a brief, I need a bit more than that. So it was a question of making it up out of my imagination, Steve. Yeah. And that's how it all started out.
Yeah, well, you didn't go away straight away because you had to get the script first. So did the script kind of clarify it in any better sense for you?
Well, yeah, in a way, I got the only thing I really got. I read the part of the script that was apt. I mean, that obviously does help. But there was 2 sections of it where this Grace passes them around. Do you want me to read out a couple of bits that are pertinent?
Yeah. Say
Well, the first bit, and this is all I had to go on. Right, this person Grace passes it around to a person called Arnold, and Arnold says, "Yes, I can see. You can just see his little head popping out of a hole there, can't you?" This is Doblin the Goblin,
right.
Okay? So that was the first. That was a picture. I had to find a picture from that.
Okay.
And then the last picture in here, Grace says, here he is again. He's decided to sail off down the stream. You see, there he is, sailing off in a walnut shell that he's borrowed.
Right.
Now,
that's all you
work
got.
it out from that, folks.
Where do you start with that? And you did. And
that's all I had. I had 4 pictures I had to produce.
With only 2 descriptions.
And that's all I had. The thing was, you see, as far as Michael Friend was concerned, he said to me, "Oh, they don't have to be special." He said, just sort of scribble them on paper, as long as people can see that there's something on there. But that's not me.
You could have just drew a couple of stick men or something like that.
Yeah, do it. Yeah,
there's something on there.
Yeah, but I couldn't do that, and I came back and I thought, this would worry me if I just scribbled a few bits of, blobs of paint on a paper. I said to him at the time, I think probably what I'll do is I'll do these in coloured pencil, normal colouring pencils. Because pastel pencils are no good. Can you imagine passing around pastel pencil pictures around?
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
They're only in loose leaf. They're not framed or anything. They're just in a portfolio.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I can't do pastel pencils. So it ended up to be coloured pencils, I thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how it all began. So I had a bit of a sleepless night. And this was, I had to do them. I mean, it wasn't a tearing hurry because they had to be there by the end of this week, so that they had them ready for the rehearsals next week. But anyway, I wanted to get on with it, so I did. So I got up Monday morning and spent a whole day sorting this out for them, and I finished them.
Right, but you didn't do them in colouring pencils?
Well, this was the thing, Steve. I started with pencils, and this is going to take me can you imagine, 4 pictures? Now, first of all, they had to be conceived. I had to draw them all out, first of all. A3, four pictures of A3 size. And then, not only that, can you imagine doing them with little coloured pencils?
Yeah.
4 pictures. I think it'll take me a week to do this. Anyway, I didn't do it. And of course, I'm not getting paid for this. Not that I'm doing it for money. I don't want people to think I am. I mean, this is something I did for Michael as a friend. Nonetheless, I thought, well, I can't spend a whole week just fiddling about with this. I tried crayons as well. I had some children's colouring crayons here, which I use for the grandchildren when they come round. I tried them and they were absolutely awful.
I can imagine.
Can you imagine? So I played with them for a while. I thought, this isn't going to work, is it? I can't use pastel pencils. So what would you have used? Think about it. What would you have used? What would you have used out there in podcast land? Acrylic? I did actually get my acrylic paints out as well. And I thought, this isn't going to work. It really is not going to work.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing them in watercolor.
Yeah.
And as you know, bear in mind that at the beginning of the day, this was the beginning of the day when I hadn't got anything on paper. I was just playing around with colours and mediums and so on. But I thought, well, watercolour is probably the easiest medium to use. It's the quickest. I'm more familiar with that next to pastel pencils. So that's how it all started out.
It made sense. It made sense to do them in watercolour. I suppose as well, A3 with coloured pencils, because you're covering a lot of space with a coloured pencil. It doesn't look smooth as watercolour when it's finished.
That's right.
Watercolour's got a smooth finish. If you've got a bigger picture, coloured pencils, it if you've got to colour a background, it's not like pastel pencils. You can blend it; it looks smooth. But colouring pencils wouldn't look smooth, would it?
No, it wouldn't. No, not that it would have mattered too much because of the distance involved.
Yes.
If you think of people, an audience going to be at least 20 foot, the nearest one is going to be 20 foot from the picture, so they're not going to actually see too much detail. This was the point that Michael was making.
Yeah.
That people aren't going to see a lot. But it wasn't satisfying enough. I mean, most children's illustrations that you see in books are watercolour.
Are they?
Oh, yeah, mostly watercolour. Certainly in the old days, they were watercolour. I think today they probably still are. Acrylic is another colour that they use a lot, but they don't use pastel hardly at all because of the printing processes and oil. So it would be, watercolour would be the natural colour to use. So that's how it all began, Steve.
So let's talk through these pictures because I've got them in front of me and they've come out amazingly well. They are absolutely stunning. They're so good. I was so surprised, pleasantly surprised. I wasn't surprised that you couldn't do it, but that they looked as good as they did. The watercolour was absolutely the best choice. They just tell a story, even if you don't really know what the story is. It could be all sorts of things you could sort of come from it, because only two of the pictures are related to the script, and the other two, the first one is obviously the goblin coming out of his hole. We'll put all these pictures on Facebook so you can see, with the rabbit and the squirrel in the distance. So that's obviously, you've got that from the script. But the next picture, if it's in chronological order like this, is the squirrel with the nuts.
No, it wasn't. It was the goblin walking through the buttercups. That was the next one, Steve.
Right. Oh, that's the one that I've got before. So.
Yeah.
So okay. So then you've got the goblin walking through the buttercups. So that wasn't told to you. You had to say, right, okay, the goblin has smelled the nut, or he knew.
That's right.
Knew that it was the nut was nearby. So now he's walking through the buttercups.
That's right. Because you've got to remember that the goblin had to go into a walnut shell.
Yeah, and on the first,
he's sailing down the river on a walnut shell.
He's
How
tiny.
big is a goblin?
And in the first picture, he looks big because he's.
Well, I know he does, but he's coming out of a big hole. But the thing is, if you look at the toadstools on the right and the buttercups, which are massive over the top of it, perspective-wise, you could probably just about get away with that.
Apart from the bunny that looks a little bit too small for the.
I know.
But it works. It does work. It totally works. I'm not taking any away from it. So then the second picture was him walking through the buttercups. Then the third picture was, again, conceived by you by saying, right, okay, the squirrel's got the nuts there and the bunny's there. That's what he's smelling.
That's right.
And you've got the river in the background.
That's right.
To set up the final picture where he's borrowed the shell and he's sailing off down the river.
That's right, yeah.
So you had to come up with those pictures before.
I know. It was amazing, wasn't it? How you think. Now I look back on it, I thought, how did I do it? And I surprised myself. I've never done anything like this before. This is the first time I've ever attempted to do something like that. Where you have a series of pictures.
Well, the thing is, as well, if it's something that and people ask me when I say that you're an artist, they say, how does he draw? And I always say you use reference pictures. You refer from other pictures and don't copy them, but you get inspiration and replicate what you want from the pictures you look at. Whereas this is going against everything that you normally do. It's having to conceive it in your head.
That's right, yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I did that. Because of time, and I didn't have a lot of time to research it because I really wanted to get it done in a day, I went on the internet and found pictures or images of squirrels, cartoon bunnies. I tried cartoon goblins, but that was a complete waste of time. They didn't really have anything, so I had to really make the goblin up.
Yeah.
And the other thing I had, that was the squirrels, the bunnies. I didn't have to have a bunny, but I felt, I think I'll have a rabbit in there, somewhere, because we're looking at woods.
Yeah.
And so on. And the other thing I did, I went to Enchanted Forest. I put Enchanted Forest in, and I had a few ideas there. And what I did is, there's not one picture that took. It was a combination of lots and lots of pictures that I looked at into my head, that then I actually produced the pictures.
Yes.
I couldn't copy them. You can't copy them because there's nothing to copy. I had a complete story, but I copied the idea. And in one of the the first picture, the bunny has got a carrot in his hand, a whole carrot.
Yeah.
But I probably haven't noticed, but the one with the squirrel and the bunny together, when he's with the nuts on the third picture, there's a bit chunked out of the carrot.
I didn't notice that.
You just noticed that. These are little things, as far as I was concerned, you see. I wanted to make it something for myself as well. I mean, it's nice to be able to do pictures for other people and for projects like this.
Yeah.
It's lovely to do it. But it's also nice to do it for yourself.
You get something out of it, don't you?
You do. You're enjoying and thoroughly absorbed in it. Going into the zone. We talked about the zone before now, and this is where you have to be to do something like that. Because if you just try, if you stay in reality world, you can't do it. You've got to go into almost fantasy land, or as I said, into a place where these ideas come from. And we're talking about just the ideas to start with. They all had to be drawn out.
Yeah.
And I keep reminding you that it was A3 size, which is a large size picture. I wouldn't do it normally that size. I'd be doing it less than A4 size. So,
and then you had to freehand draw the characters as well, didn't you? You had to freehand draw them. All of it. Yeah. So it's quite a task to do, and it really came out well. So we'll definitely put these up. What was it like doing fantasy? Was it like a fantasy kind of fiction picture? Was it a nice change? Was it refreshing?
Very much so, yes. I must admit that I would like to do more. Now I've done those. I always think things happen for a reason, and you know this, Steve. There's a reason why I was given that task.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I was given the task was, okay, see what you can do with this. I know that you're going to enjoy it, and I did.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe... I mean, Oscar came round, my your
nephew.
I had to try to think who he was in relation to you. He's my grandson, but your nephew. And he came round, and he was enthralled by it.
Yeah.
And we drew the bunny again, and we drew... So, there's a wonderful touch, really, when you can put that into another area.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to probably do more of them. I don't know. It depends on kind of reaction we get. I can't offer these pictures up. I don't think as projects.
No. No, but it'd be interesting for people to see that it's a different side of the art that they would never have seen, but I've never seen before. A completely different subject matter tackled and done really nice, and they're really warm, friendly pictures, and they're very lucky to have them. And obviously you've given them.
Yeah. Also, Steve, I didn't have an awful lot of pressure on me because I knew where these pictures was going. They were going to be handled on the stage. No one was really going to see them. The only people who are going to see them, of course, is the actors.
Yes.
And they're going to be focusing on their script. They're not going to be looking at my pictures. So it wasn't really a great deal of pressure but to do a perfect job. Had I had more time or, the incentive, then I probably would have been, spending a lot more time on them. So in a way, I was rushing them, but in the rush, I had to draw very, very quickly or paint very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And in that came out something, I think, quite special.
Because you're not really thinking about it as much, are you, I suppose? You're just letting your mind do it.
You can't think about it at all when you're doing that because you're wielding a brush with paint splashing about, and what I did was, as you can see from the pictures, is I use a larger brush, a half-inch brush most of the time.
Yeah.
When I was doing that, even for the finer details, I was using a half-inch brush, flat brush. And I also, when I finished it, I went over with a pen, our pens, our black pens that we've got.
Yes.
As like a pen and ink wash, effectively. That's what it was, but it was the other way around.
Yeah.
I drew it, then used the watercolor, and then I used the pen afterwards just to put a little bit of extra zing in it.
Yeah. Well, the one bit I won't. This is the last thing I'm going to say about it, because otherwise, people are going to get distracted. He's bored. Yeah. The one thing I really like is in the first picture, the one where he's emerging from the hole. The tree behind him, sort of a weeping willowy type tree, looks absolutely stunning. The colour and the tone of that tree is really atmospheric. I really, really like that. I really think that's like I can really feel what that picture is what that part of the image is telling me, and almost what it would be like there. And do you know what I mean? It's a very, very, very effective tree, and it's so silly to say that about a tree, but it's just the colours of the tree and the tone and the effect of the watercolour really, really does look good. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Okay, but we've killed that one off anyway.
Well, yeah. So if you've listened this far, thank you. So we're gonna go on to some questions. We've got the first one. Jerry asked you. This wasn't via email, or this was. I think he asked you this question somehow over the phone, perhaps, or on a comment or something. But anyway, the question Jerry asked is, on the rustic cottage tutorial, you use a 640, which is a Carbothello pencil on the roof.
Yeah.
So you obviously use that 640, but where can people get that Carbothello pencil from?
Well, you've got a problem now, I believe, because I don't think you can get that anymore. We did check a website, didn't we, into that Carbothello, and it didn't have that number.
Didn't have that particular colour on it. Now,
no.
Obviously, you can still get Carbothello pencils out there, and just by doing a Google search, pulled up a ton for me. But it's whether you can actually get that specific colour. If you can, great, but we think it might be discontinued.
The problem you have with some colours, you have a colour. The reason I went for that on Carbothello rather than sticking to my Faber-Castells is because I wanted something very, very deep. And I mentioned that on the Rustic Cottage. And that's why I chose it. I didn't realise at the time that it was no longer available, or probably no longer available. It's sad. But, I mean, you just have to compromise sometimes. I would have used, if I hadn't got that pencil, would have used 642. 640 in the Carbothello range is Indian red. That's the description of the colour.
Yeah.
Whereas 192 in the Faber-Castell is also Indian red. But if you put the two things together, they're nowhere near alike.
Really? That's interesting.
Well, the 640 is a very deep mauvey red, a very deep colour, and the 192 is a dark red. That's basically it.
Right.
So it's just interpretations these manufacturers have.
Yeah.
They have to give it a block colour, and that's the colour they give it. Yeah. But if you can get hold of it, great. If you can't, well, you'll have to find something else.
Yeah, sorry about that. But something to mention before we go on is you mentioned on Facebook. You mentioned there was a Faber-Castell. They were mentioned on a TV program.
That's right.
Yes,
they were.
And a lot of people have been asking, what was the program, because they can't find it.
It was. Hang on, Steve. It's on iPlayer.
I know. I've already found it for you.
Make me a German or something. Make me a German.
I found it, Dad. I found it, and I've told people already.
Oh well, there you are then.
You didn't let me finish the story. People asked, and a lot of people were saying, and because you were out and very busy, I scoured the iPlayer for the last couple of days and found a program that might have been it, which was Make Me a German. And I watched it to find the bit where the Faber-Castell came in. So I've actually said on Facebook, you can watch. I've put the link in, Make Me a German, and it was something like 11 minutes 50 seconds in is where it starts, and it goes on from there about Faber-Castell. It's all about Germany and the Germans, but they mention Faber-Castell being one of the biggest pencil manufacturers in the world. Yeah, and they account for something like 6% of the world's pencils. So so people have got the link on Facebook. I was kind enough to watch that programme, dig it out, and but it was interesting.
Well, Jonathan mentioned this to me. He was very kind and mentioned that, amongst other things, on his email that there was this programme. I thought, I'll put it out there, to everybody else.
Right.
When I saw it, I must admit I was slightly disappointed because I thought there'd be a bit more about the pencils, but that wasn't the point, was it? It was just showing Faber-Castell and how good they are, or how big they are, and how successful they are.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. And but the pencil that was actually shown, I've got some of those.
Have you, the coloured pencils?
They're normal coloured pencils. Actually, they're children's pencils, believe it or not. They're made really for the children's market.
Yeah.
But, they're a very good quality. They are a very good quality, but they are a normal coloured pencil. But I've got some,
Yeah. Okay, so the next question was from Wendy, and she asked about drawing veins on a horse.
Oh, right.
You've done horse pictures before. I haven't got them up now. Are they particularly veiny, these horses?
Oh, they are, yeah.
So would you have covered that in a pack or something?
Well, I did do a video somewhere around, Steve. We've got a video of on one of our clips. We've got a video clip of it. You'll have to look for it. If you haven't got it, I've got it on one of mine. I don't know whether I'm going to do an exercise of it because it's quite a big one. It would be quite too big for a normal exercise. So we can just put it on the member site as an interest, interest query, like the rocks last week.
So you've done a video tutorial on how to draw veins on a horse. It's kind of a specific exercise. And what horse subject did you use for that? Did you?
Well, Wendy actually sent me the picture that she was doing, and it didn't stand out enough for me. So I used another one, same colour. It was a chestnut horse.
Yeah.
And I used the same one, not the same picture, the same type of horse.
Okay.
But with the veins sticking out a bit more.
Okay, great, excellent. Okay, so that will be on the site soon.
That'll be coming up.
Yeah, so thanks for that inquiry, Wendy. If you've got anything that you need help with, send it through to Dad via email, colin@bradleygallery.co.uk, or you can post on the Facebook page and ask him a question. Particular things like that, which are quite hard to do, or if you're struggling with or you need help with, send them across and see if Dad can help out. The last question I want to cover today is about watercolour paints. Now, we've had a few people ask about watercolour paints, and we mentioned them, I believe, last week, the different colours that you use for the watercolour paints. But we used to sell a watercolour pack, a watercolour made easy pack, which there was a sheet on there that dictated and illustrated what paints you used. Didn't it?
That's right.
So I think what we would do is use that page, and we'll get that out to people somehow, because then as a reference for the subjects that we're doing on the site. Obviously, we're doing a couple more watercolours or mixed medias that are coming up, so it's kind of good to have that as a reference point. So.
Well, they might need it if they all like these fantasy pictures and said we want a few of them. We're not Doblin the Goblin, though.
No.
Doblin the Goblin? Dobbin the Goblin.
Dobbin the Goblin.
I thought Dobbin was for a horse, isn't it? A horse. I didn't know it went to
Well, there was a kind of, I don't know if it was a goblin as such. In Harry Potter, there was Dobby.
Oh.
He was like a goblin, wasn't he? He was a little...
Yes, he was
an elf. He was an elf. He was like a house elf, wasn't he?
That's right.
So it's a similar name, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the trouble is with goblins, you see, as far as I know, not that I'm an expert on them, is that they are quite naughty thing. They're quite dark, aren't they, goblins?
Yeah, they are.
They're very mischievous. And as this was for a children's book, I thought, I can't be too... Because I did find a few similar to that Harry Potter goblin. I thought, well, I can't use that.
A bit scary.
It would be too scary, so I had to water him down a bit.
Yeah.
Make him like a gnome, garden gnome, somewhere between the two.
Yeah. So we'll get those watercolour paints on that sheet, that worksheet, to people. We'll perhaps put that on Facebook or on the members' site, so people can see that and save it to their computers as a kind of a reference, and it sort of goes with what we said about describing the paints. I think I did last week, so that should help people out. Last thing to mention is as well, we've getting some reaction on the Hug Me picture, but we need a few more. I'd say we've got quite a few Hug Me yeses, but if we want to do this Hug Me picture, which is the teddy bear picture we mentioned last week, we need a bit more reaction. So if you're dead keen on trying out a teddy bear picture with some history to it and learning how to draw that kind of still life subject, you need to tell us. You need to tell us by saying Hug Me Yes, to either send us an email or write on a Facebook page or comment on the show, on the podcast show, and just say Hug Me Yes if you want to see it.
Right. Good. Yeah.
Okay, so that's still in development. Other than that, I think that's it for this week.
That was an interesting one. Bit different, Steve.
Yeah, covering a different kind of area, but that's what this podcast is about. So
yeah,
there we go. Okay, well, that's it then. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Enjoy your week. I've got to go get ready for a wedding now.
Not yours, I hope, Steve.
No. I think you'd know about it if it was.
I was going to say, it just worry me a little bit.
Yeah, come on, hop up to London. I'm going to get married.